Every generation believes this sentence. This time, technology will replace people completely. And every generation is convinced that they are the last ones who won't survive the change. Today, that fear has a new face. It's called artificial intelligence. Junior software engineers are told AI writes code better than you. There will be no entry-level jobs. Why would a company hire you if a model can do it instantly? But before we panic, let's do something engineers are supposed to do. Let's look at the data, and more importantly, let's look at history. If we go back about 100 years, cities worked very differently. Public transportation ran on horses. Entire professions existed around them. Coachmen, stable workers, blacksmiths, veterinarians. Then car arrived, and suddenly a very rational fear appeared. What will happen to all these people? And yes, some professions disappeared. There are no horse-powered taxis today, maybe in the historical centers of some old cities. But the story didn't end there. New professions emerged: taxi drivers, mechanics, fleet owners, manufacturers, logistics companies. Some people, of course, lost their businesses. Others adapted. By the way, I'm not only an engineering manager and a software developer, but an amateur historian with 10 years of experience as a Berlin city guide. So I support my engineering and technology stories with references to the literature and history. Hope you like it. Let's continue. In German literature, there is a famous example, Still Gustav, novel by Hans Fallada, the story of a man who owned a fleet of horse-drawn carriages and lost everything because he refused to switch to cars. The book definitely goes beyond transportation entrepreneurship. Right next to Gustav were entrepreneurs who replaced horses with engines and moved forward. The pattern was clear. Technology didn't destroy work, it changed who benefited from it. Let's take another example. For decades, phone calls were connected manually. Telephone operators were often women, routed calls by hand. Then automation came. Switchboard disappeared. Operators lost their jobs. And today, we don't even think about how calls are connected. But telecom engineers, network architects, and infrastructure specialists exist because of that automation, not despite it. Once again, evolution, not collapse. There is another brilliant story by the Russian writer Mikhail Zoshenko, written in the 1920s. It's about a man who plays in an orchestra. His instrument is a triangle, not a violin, not a piano, just a small metal triangle. One day, someone tells him scientists are inventing a button. The orchestra manager will press it, and it will produce the exact sound of a triangle. The triangle player panics. He imagines himself replaced by a button. Completely unnecessary. But time passes and nothing happens. He keeps playing in the orchestra, and if you go to an opera house today, 100 years later, you'll still see a real person standing there holding a metal triangle waiting for his moment. Because orchestras were never just about producing sound, they were about music, performance, context, and style. Things that are hard to reduce to a button. Now, replace triangle with a junior developer. Today, junior engineers often feel exactly like that triangle player. They think, my job is simple, I write code. If AI writes code, I'm replaceable. But software engineering was never just about typing code. And this is where the conversation needs to change. Before we go any further, there is a reality check we need to do. Junior developers are struggling to enter the job market. That part is true. But the next assumption is usually wrong. Many people say juniors can't find jobs because AI replaced them. The problem is the trend for entry-level jobs reduction started before AI became popular or effective. If we look at what was happening earlier, before 2024, interests went up. Venture capital became more expensive. Companies started cutting costs. As a consequence, hiring slowed down and entry-level roles were the first to disappear. This was already happening before 2024. AI didn't start this problem, AI just arrived at the same time and became an easy explanation. So when we talk about fewer junior positions, we're really talking about microeconomics, not automation. This may sound like an explanation of a poor job market situation, but here comes the good news paradox. At the same time that traditional junior roles became scarcer, AI started creating a different kind of opportunity. For years, many companies wanted automation, but either couldn't afford it or were stuck with very old versions because of pricey upgrades. Enterprise software was expensive. Large systems required big teams. Custom development took too long. Now that is changing. It is a bit too early to say that a single junior with AI tools can replace a team of experienced engineers and that software as a service systems can be developed fast and cheap. Such software systems are not about engineering work only. There are a lot of product managers, designers, business developers, and data analysts involved into the development process. Even if we assume that most of their work is automated by AI, we still need a team of AI-empowered professional humans in order to design, develop, market, sell, and support all these systems. However, there is definitely a niche where a single AI-empowered developer can do way more than before for the same money. This creates a new role, not junior backend developer, but something closer to AI integrator, automation engineer, internal tools developer, etc. In other words, AI doesn't eliminate junior work, it reshapes what junior work looks like. Companies don't always need perfect systems, they need working solutions fast, and AI lowers the barrier for that. Let's get practical. If AI is not the end of engineering, then what should junior developers do right now? Become AI proficient on purpose. AI is not optional anymore. A junior developer today shouldn't say, I know some AI. They should say, I know how to work with AI as a force multiplier. The goal is simple. A junior developer with AI should be able to deliver what previously required a small team, not because they are better, but because they are augmented. This is in theory. Around 84% of developers already use AI assistants regularly, not as a replacement, but as a helper. That tells us something important. AI is becoming a standard development tool, just like IDEs once did. This already happened before, just quieter. Let me give you a personal example. In 1999, I wrote my first Java program using Norton Commander. The old folks may remember these nice blue panels on the screen. I was compiling the code from the command line on a Windows 98 machine. No smart autocomplete, no refactoring tools, no warnings, no safety nets. Then IDEs came, then code completion, then static analysis, then refactoring, then linters. Every step automated something developers used to do manually, and every step raised the baseline. AI is the same, just a much bigger leap. One of the biggest advantages for juniors is speed of learning. Before AI, you joined the company, opened a massive legacy codebase, and spent months trying to understand what was happening. Now, you can ask questions in human language. You can explore architecture faster. You can understand unfamiliar systems quicker. You are no longer just reading code. You are talking to the codebase. That's a massive advantage if you use AI to understand, not to blindly copy. Code review becomes a core skill. There is something I want to be very honest about here. Reviewing code was always a challenge for me. When you review the code of a student or a very junior engineer, it's usually straightforward. You immediately see inconsistencies, missing edge cases, unclear naming, obvious mistakes. Giving feedback is easy, the gaps are visible. By reviewing the code of a senior engineer is a completely different experience. The code works, the structure makes sense, there are no obvious bugs, and suddenly it becomes much harder to provide meaningful feedback or spot subtle problems or even nitpick in a useful way. Not because the code is perfect, but because experienced people often produce good outcomes from the start. And yet, as we all know, every code base can't be improved. That tension between this is good and this could be better is exactly what makes code review a real engineering skill. Now, here is where AI changes the situation. AI-generated code is interesting. It is usually not a junior-level code. It looks clean, it follows patterns, it often feels confident. But confidence doesn't mean correctness. Recently, I was preparing a very simple demo for students, a basic URL shortener. Nothing fancy, just a teaching example. I asked AI to generate the code. It took about 3 minutes to generate something that looked perfectly fine. But then it took me another 40 minutes to actually get it running properly, fixing assumptions, adjusting configuration, correcting subtle issues, making it behave as expected. And here is the key insight. If I had written that demo myself from scratch, it would have taken me roughly the same 40 minutes. So what did AI really do? It didn't save time on thinking. It shifted the effort from writing to reviewing and correcting. The code wasn't junior, but it also wasn't production ready. And that middle ground is exactly where review skills matter most. Now, imagine what happens next. AI models will improve. The output will become cleaner, more senior looking, less error prone, harder to criticize, and that creates a new challenge. In the past, juniors learned by reviewing messy code. In the future, they'll need to learn by reviewing clean looking but subtly flawed code. That's much harder, and that's why code review, especially AI-assisted code review, is becoming one of the most important skills a junior engineer can master. Not writing code, not generating code, but deciding whether the code deserves to exist. So, think beyond just coding roles. New junior roles are emerging: AI integrator, automation developer, internal tooling engineer, AI-enabled product engineer. These roles focus on connecting systems, automating workflows, introducing AI into real business processes. This is not the end of junior roles, it's a redefinition. So, if you like the video, share your opinions in the comments, and see you next time.